Douentza in Ireland, and today it's time to feed and water my orchids. So this video is going to be about how I feed and water my orchids. Right, so I'm a really lazy person, and the way I operate is that I water my orchids roughly once a week. Now what I do is, the orchids that need more moisture than others, I put more sphagnum and perlite in the mix to make them last the week, to make them need to be watered in time with the cattleyas and the other ones. And everything has an exception. So the exception to my lazy once a week watering regime is the vandas. Vandas of course need to be watered a hell of a lot more frequently than once a week, every day in fact. And the second exception is the deezas and the frags. They actually sit in water the whole time, so they don't get watered once a week. And there are orchids I can't grow, for example, because their watering requirements are just too frequent for what I'm prepared to give them. Okay, so you can guess that there's a theme here. I'm quite lazy when it comes to this. And the orchid feed that I use is this one. It's the Akerne Rain mix. Now this is, I think it's a newly developed one from Belgium, and it's a great balanced feed, and I'm not going to go on about the chemical composition of it. You can read up about it if you want to. But the great thing about this feed is that you add it to the water for every time that you water your orchids. So you put it in at the required concentrate, and every time you need to water your orchids you have this feed in. So it's quite dilute really, but I find it's really great, certainly for my cattleyas now. It works wonderfully and helps them flower beautifully. So the rain mix can be used on orchids at any time, whether they're in bud or just in active growth, or even, if they're asleep. If the orchid needs a water, then it needs some of this rain mix mixed in with this fertilizer, mixed in with the water. So here are all my orchids. They've been brought into the kitchen, and they're all waiting for me to water and feed them really. Okay, so the measurement for this particular orchid feed, and that's what it looks like, is 1 teaspoon, which holds 1.5 grams per 3 litres. Now what I've taken to doing is to measuring it precisely. So what I do is, the spoon isn't the best now, I really must say, and the instructions for measurement really aren't that clear. But so it's one teaspoon per 3 litres. So that's 1 teaspoon, and in it goes into the water, making sure you get all of it off the spoon. And so then just give it a good mix. Like if you look closely, you can see like lumps of the feed, so you have to make sure that they're all mixed in well. Now my water, the water I use is rainwater, and that's what's recommended with this particular feed. My tap water could be okay, but I haven't tested it. I haven't tested it for TDSs, I haven't tested it for salts. So I'm going to stick with the rainwater, because there is a danger if your water isn't pure enough that you end up overfeeding your orchids with this particular feed. Okay, so I use rainwater, which I collect outside in a butt, and it's too cold for the orchids. So what I do then is I heat it up in the microwave. So I'm now watering my orchids, as you can see, and the way I do it is to pour copious amounts of water through the plant. Now there is an issue with using the same water to flush out a multitude of plants, And what I always do is that when I get new plants, I water them separately for a while to make sure that I'm not transferring any viruses or anything via the water from one plant to another. But as I said, I'm a lazy girl, and generally speaking, and I'm telling you the truth here, I use the same water to flush out all of my plants. Now this plant here is an Oncidium, and it gets watered once a week, and you can see that in the mix here I have some perlite and I have some sphagnum, and you know, that just helps retain the water a little bit to make this plant last the week. Now in the summer you may need to have to water slightly more than once a week, and in the winter you may have to water slightly less. But I will say this, it is always a good idea before you start watering to just check the plant. I mean, use your common sense. If the plant is drippy wet and it's a week since it was last watered, there's something wrong there, and you certainly shouldn't be watering that again. And if something is drying out too quickly, well, maybe you need to address the medium, or maybe you shouldn't be growing that plant if you want a weekly watering regime. So that's it really. And I hope that you found this video useful, my lazy girl guide. But you know what, I will just stress again, exercise your common sense. It's just something that I find useful, and what I do doesn't take the place of, you know, checking your orchids individually to see how the roots are doing, whether they're drying out quickly enough or drying out too slowly. Thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Bye now.